A tēnā tātou, ka tuahu ki runga ki te mihi atu ki a koutou o te whare nei, ki a koutou ka kawe ahu te whakaaro me te aroha o te whānui o Ngaitahu. Encouraging the nations of Rangatahi to be the best that they can be is a subject I'm passionate about. I believe it's the only way forward if New Zealand is to succeed globally. So I must thank Philanthropy New Zealand and the organisers of the summit for this opportunity to speak and to share my thoughts and experiences. When I look back on my own expectations of what I thought my life would be, I can see a young man who had less vision of what he could achieve than the people who surrounded him. Although I certainly wouldn't have imagined that I might be here addressing you today in a university environment, I think my own father, uncles and grandfather might have. They had more than enough vision and imagination for me. They could see the big picture much better than I could. And they could see there was a role for me and others in the iwi, who would one day have to stand up and be the ones to take the lead. And because they knew that we would need certain skills, they trained us. And I don't think we even realised we were being trained. From our point of view, we were just helping whānau out, doing jobs, helping where we could, learning the old methods of finding kai. For myself, my first family role at the age of 23 in 1977, I turned up from my grandmother's tangi. My uncle said, "You lot, get up the hill, dig your grandmother's grave." We went up. My oldest brother came and said, "Oh, we need water. Go and get some water." So I went down and I come back onto the urupā and my brother walked up to me, "Congratulations." I said, "Congratulations what?" "You're now in charge of the urupā and all burials within the family." I said, "Well, when do I get to have a say?" It's pointless, it was unanimous. That's your job. 2 years later, the uncles come to me. "Mark, we want you to go on to the Oaro Incorporation for 1 year." 1979. In 1997, I went to one of the uncles. "Uncle Bill, you've asked me to go on the Oaro Incorporation for 1 year in 1979. It's now 1997. My uncle's answer was, "Did we tell you which year?" In September, I start my 37th year on that board. Ngaitahu kids, especially from Otaku and Murihiku, were taken down to the Titi Islands to work, and believe me, harvesting of titi is hard work. Our kaumātua knew they were passing on knowledge, essential knowledge about who we were and what our heritage was. They were teaching us the value of working together to get the work done faster. They were teaching us the value of sharing what we had. And that included the value of tuhungatanga, shared knowledge, and whanaungatanga, the value of family. These are fundamental things that are not always taught at schools or in universities. Our sets of values should be our guide, and they should help us aspire to those careers and pathways that will help us provide for our families and contribute in some way to the well-being of those around us. Back in 1949, Sir Apirana Ngata had strong ideas about how to develop young Māori leaders. He encouraged Māori youth to seek out knowledge of science and technology and blend it with customary Māori knowledge. He implied that Māori identity was essentially derived from the past, and that in the rapidly changing world, it could be a stabilising force in the midst of uncertainty. He recognised that future Māori leaders must have a strong awareness of how influence, power and responsibility operate in Māori whānau, hapu and iwi communities, and how to manage them. So what are the lessons we can take from this legacy of whānau cooperation and enterprise, this understanding of the core values underpinning Māori communities? Everyone can have big, bold economic thinking, but what does that mean to our lives? What does all that mean to Māori if our people are not well, happy, culturally secure, and realising their full potential? We've all read or heard the stories about the significant opportunities and yet to be realised potential of the Māori economy. And yes, many iwi and hapu have accomplished much that they can be proud of. But for all that growth and opportunity, Māori are still experiencing socioeconomic disparities that need to be addressed. And I think there are valuable clues in Te Aparana Ngāta's words and in the old whānau stories that focused on teaching values. It's about exploring new pathways for the modern world based on our traditions, and within that, education is the key. Education is the liberating force. Education is the pathway to leadership. Education empowers people. Education empowers us as a nation. Education is everything. And let me be clear, the whole of New Zealand, not just Māori, needs to aspire to the next level. We've all got to lift our game, otherwise New Zealand is in danger of not being able to support its ageing population, of not delivering on lifestyle expectations and not having enough high-level skills to steer the country, its organisations and industry successfully through the coming years. It's sobering to note in light of this that the latest education statistics show that Māori students are becoming worse in our system. We all have to face the reality of this because it impacts on all of us. Any underperformance by Māori is a problem for all New Zealanders. He waka eke noa, we're all in this together without exception. This whakatauki reminds us that our goals cannot be achieved unless we all work together. I'd like to expand on that for a moment and talk about the changing face of New Zealand and how that is going to affect us all. In 1951, Māori made up just 7% of our population. That increased to 14.5% in 2006. Our latest 2013 statistics state that 1 in 7 people now living in New Zealand are of Māori ethnicity. That's an increase of almost 40% in the past 22 years. And according to the Department of Statistics, Māori, Pacific Island and Asian people will make up 42% of the New Zealand population by 2026. 2013 statistics also state that 1/3 of all Māori are aged under 15 years. But more importantly, by 2050, around 50% of all Pākehā New Zealanders will be 65 or older. So whether this nation likes it or not, in 2050, the bulk of the tax-paying workforce will be Māori, Pacifica, Asian. As future taxpayers, this is a huge responsibility for our children, and it's the reality that New Zealand must work towards. But think about this. 2013 statistics also show that 33% of Māori aged 15 or over have no formal qualifications. Absolutely none. And these are the youth who will somehow need to be earning the money that pays for the rest of the country's healthcare and superannuation in future years. You can see then why we at Ngāi Tahu and other iwi see the need to drive home the importance of education to everyone. I'm passionate about encouraging young Māori to strive to be the best they can be. We need to set higher aspirations for our rangatahi, so we give them the self-belief they need to achieve. For New Zealand's sake, we must lift the horizons of all young people who are currently not achieving. It's this understanding about the future and the need to empower our younger generations that drives the greater Ngāi Tahu iwi. We don't have a choice. If we don't pick up this mantle and go for it, if we don't upskill our rangatahi, we risk our own and New Zealand's future. We need young Māori to be the best they can be. We have to show our rangatahi what fantastic opportunities are waiting for them just beyond NCEA. Opportunities like coming to university or doing extra training, like learning to empower themselves to make their own choices in life. I applaud the business leaders who are already creating opportunities for Māori, who see the value of guiding them towards being leaders in their own right. Our fishing, banking, electricity and building industries are all taking steps to motivate our young children to get on those first rungs of the career ladder. As an example of that, let me tell you about He Toki Ki Te Rika. He Toki Ki Te Rika, an ad's in the hand. It is one of the Ngāi Tahu initiatives that I've been closely involved with as patron and that I'm very proud of. It's a thriving partnership between Te Rūnanga o Ngāi Tahu, Christchurch Polytechnic and Hawkins Construction. It represents a new era in Māori trades training. Modelled on the Māori trades training scheme that began after World War II, it was established after the Christchurch earthquakes to ensure our people play a distinguished role in the Christchurch rebuild. The scheme initially began by offering pre-trade training programs in an effort to encourage Māori to start seeking the qualifications that gave their work that formal tick. The program took off and there has been huge interest. We've put through over 900 rangatahi in 4 years. In fact, we are now building on that success by offering a full apprenticeship scheme, He Toki Ki Te Mahi. This next step of the He Toki suite of programs is being formally launched by Prime Minister John Key and Minister for Māori Affairs Te Ururoa Flavel at Rehua Marae tomorrow night. And following that comes the Leadership Pathways program. This is designed to encourage Māori currently employed in the construction industry who have already completed some trades qualification. The initiative enables them to gain higher qualifications in quantity surveying, construction management, site supervision, and in 2016, architectural technology. Every branch of the He Toki program is designed to start a lifetime journey of self-improvement and ongoing education. That will result in improved standards of living and a greater appreciation of whanaungatanga and Māori culture within Māori communities. As an iwi, we are greatly encouraged to find industry partners like Hawkins who think the same way we do and who share the values we hold close. It's all about partnerships like this adding value to the process, and it shows what we can do when we all work together. Programs like He Toki are about igniting the spark. They're about giving whānau the tools to help themselves and to drive their own future. At Ngāi Tahu, we are highly motivated to bring out the leadership qualities in all our people. To that end, we have a wide range of programs that encourage and build leadership capacity. As an example, our Manawa Nui program encourages Ngāi Tahu whānui onto Ngāi Tahu holdings boards. The program provides opportunities for Ngāi Tahu whānui to gain and enhance their commercial governance experience with a view to becoming candidates for future board positions, both within the Ngāi Tahu Holdings Group and externally. We have Whenua Kura, which was established in 2013 by Te Rūnanga subsidiary Ngāi Tahu Property, Te Tapuwai o Rehua and Lincoln University. The initiative encourages Māori into agriculture and helps them to aspire to become farm managers and leaders in rural business. In June of this year, Ngāi Tahu will start the employment of our first 2 Māori managers of 2 of our farms who have come through this program. Response to the program has been amazing. We've had nationwide applications for the 10 diploma places. North Island iwi response has also been overwhelmingly positive, and several other iwi, Ngāti Porou, Ngāti Rarawa, Tūranganiakiwa, have sent students to the course, onto the course for this year. They see the diploma as a great way to build leaders and agricultural capability, I should say. It's no secret that Ngāi Tahu assets are now around the 1 billion mark, 1,074 million to be exact, net. What is not so well known is that since settlement, and this is up to the 1st of July last year, we have distributed 320 million into our people through our different funding programs. This year, at the end of the financial year, we can add another 36 million to that. Next year's budget for distribution is 41 million. I just put that bit in for those that believe that it's only the iwi fat cats at the top that get anything out of the settlements. Just on that, it was quite interesting. I did a series of hui across the country. Tā Tipani and the Trust Board had brought home the settlement. In my naivety in my first AGM as the new chairman of the new organisation, I simply stood up, thanked Tipani and the Trust Board for bringing home the settlement, and then made the statement, now Ngāi Tahu, Before your new structure embarks on any form of expenditure, first I will come out to you, the owner, and ask what are the areas that you want to invest in. It would be fair to say that from that annual general meeting I got kicked all the way back to Christchurch. I was told I was an idiot, that I would go out amongst Ngāi Tahu and every man would be standing like this, where's my money? My response was, well, that could be, but ultimately Ngāi Tahu whānui are the owners. And after a 7 generation to get to a settlement to that we agree to, surely the owners have a right of input. So I undertook 19 hui across the country, 3,800 Ngāi Tahu attended, 3 people went like that. I didn't even have to respond. The first was a young woman in Rotorua who wanted me to ship her and her 2 children to Christchurch and for her share of the settlement, put her in a home. Before I could respond, one of our taua, one of our grandmothers in the audience sitting beside this young woman in a rather loud voice, what is your name, dear? This girl gave her name. Now, dear, what have you done for Ngāi Tahu? I suppose if you put it that way, taua, nothing. Then shut up, dear. This is not about you. This is not about you. It is not about me. It is about us. The tribe's job is to give a hand up, not a hand out. And you do not have the right to ask without never having given anything back to the tribe. That statement was repeated in every hui we held. And every hui that we held, we were told, you are not allowed to become the new Brown social welfare. Your job is to give a hand up, not a hand out. What were the top priorities? The reo. It would be fair to say that of all tribes, Ngāi Tahu are the least able to speak their reo. The culture. But alongside those 2 as the top priorities was education in all of its aspects, from early childhood through to second chance education initiatives for the elders. Every Ngāi Tahu hui put those as the priorities for us. And we have honoured what they put in front of us. But it was also a shock for a lot of the others, the doomsayers, that our people aren't just gimme, 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 gimme. They want to build a future, and that's about giving a hand up. Another of the mechanisms we use to deliver well-being to our people is the Ngāi Tahu Fund, a vehicle we created to foster our tikanga, our culture. That is the very thing that defines us. This fund is run by Jennifer Walsh, who many of you may know as a board member of Philanthropy New Zealand. It provides funding for a superb range of projects from artists and weaving, wānanga, to whakapapa research, mahinga kai projects, tamariki waka ama, to name a few. Each year we fund 60 to 90 projects, and since the fund was established in 2006, we have funded 758 projects to the value of 7.7 million. Another program that we run, of which I am incredibly proud of, is the Whairawa Match Savings Scheme. I grew up in a generation every week. Mum and my dad sent myself, my brother and my sisters to school with our post office book, 2 bob. If Dad had a good week, ½ crown, to bank. So banking was something you just did every week. But we now have 1.5 generations of Ngāi Tahu kids never banked in their lives. So we introduced a match savings scheme called Whairawa Mō Tātou. If our tamariki can save $50 in a year, Ngāi Tahu will match that with $200. It goes into a unit trust. On top of that, depending on the performance of the Ngāi Tahu Holdings Corporation, there is a dividend that is paid directly into their account on a yearly basis. On top of that, the tribe currently pays all the fees of the program. It is a bit paternalistic in the sense that you can only draw your money out for 3 things. Once you're into the system, you're locked into it. You can draw your money out for education, you can draw your money out for a home, or you can draw your money out for superannuation. When we first promoted this program, we were threatened by to be taken to the Human Rights Commission by 2 of our elders, because we had mistakenly came to the conclusion that those 65 and older wouldn't want to bank, that we would just give them the same amount that we gave to the children each year as a kaumātua grant. They were going to take us to the Human Rights Commission because who were we to tell the elders that they could not bank? So we changed the system. But what I'm proud of, we now have close to 19,000 of our members actively joined. The most avid bankers are our children. And I think at the close of last year's finances, there were 29 million saved into that account, mainly by our rangatahi. With the adults, it's dollar for dollar up to 200, then they get the dividend plus the interest, etc. But it's just a scheme to get it into the psyche of our children. You need to bank, you need to save for education, for a home, for your old age. Our Ngāi Tahu Ka Pūtea grants and scholarships are another area, are available to all registered Ngāi Tahu iwi members who are enrolled in NZQA recognised tertiary study or the equivalent. In 2014, we gave out 893 grants and 43 scholarships were awarded. I think it's also vital to note that like Ngāi Tahu, many other iwi are also building very worthy programs aimed at supporting, encouraging and guiding their rangatahi to better, brighter futures. Many are carefully investing in well-being, cultural and educational initiatives for their people with an eye to the future. Waikato Tainui, for instance, has fantastic aspirations for its rangatahi. They have developed a wide range of scholarships and internships with community partners like Landcare Research, the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, the Waikato Regional Council and the electricity industry. The iwi and its partners want their young people in good, steady jobs with the opportunity to improve and grow their futures. As many of you will know, there's another exciting educational initiative in Whangarei, funded by the ASB Community Trust as part of its Māori and Pacific education initiatives. The Leadership Academy of A Company is helping to turn underachieving Māori boys into future leaders. And of the first 8 boys to graduate from this program, 5 have gone on to tertiary study, 3 are now enrolled in their second year at Otago University, and the others are all in full-time employment. Not bad for problem children. That's impressive in an area where in 2017, 81% of Māori boys failed NCEA Level 1. And a fifth of those aged 15 to 24 are currently not in education, employment or training. The key thing about this and other similar iwi programs is that along with formal education, rangatahi are learning about who they are, their whakapapa, te reo Māori, and being able to stand tall on the marae as well as in the Western world, just as Sir Apirana Ngata hoped for then back in 1949. I've seen another excellent example of iwi forging a path to self-improvement in the Ngāti Rangi Transformation Plan, which addresses housing, employment, education and crime in the Ruapehu Rohi and involves iwi working with local agencies and businesses to come up with their own solutions to problems instead of being dependent on government agencies. It's been described as one of the most hopeful things to happen in the Ruapehu district in recent times, and I think it's another excellent role model. I'm inspired by Ngāti Rangi and all the others who are encouraging their people, and especially the rangatahi, to find themselves, especially when it emphasises community and whānau coming together. It's a return to our traditional path, but modified to address living in the 21st century. I think it's something that all New Zealand Māori should be considering as a way forward. It shows what can be achieved when iwi aspirations meet philanthropy. When we all come together, whether it be through the philanthropic donation of funds or time through scholarship funding, joint educational programs or business mentoring, we can achieve great things. Bringing about that transformation is not easy, nor is it immediate, but we are working with bold purpose for our whānau so that they can achieve the bright futures they dream of. Mō tātou mō kauri a muri aki nei for us and our children after us. As our Ngaitahu elder Kukupā Tirikatni often says to us, me pēnei tātou ki ngā waka, ka whakahaere e te hau, hopu a te hau, ahako ka puhi mai hia, hei painga mō tātou katoa. We should all be like the boats powered by the wind, catch the wind from wherever it blows and use it to the advantage of all. I say, let's stay on the learning waka. Let's keep striving for qualifications. Let's build our rangatahi into the leaders they deserve to be. Tēnā koutou. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Sir Mark. It's not hard to see why that kept you on for 37 years. We have got a whole host of very positive tweets that have been tweeted during your presentation, and I'll share those with you all later on. But we've got time just for a couple of questions, and the first question is, hoping like how this works. Question for Sir Mark Solomon: what does it take for an iwi organisation to be nimble enough to support rangatahi into innovative and not yet developed industries, i.e. technology, gaming, etc.?
It takes a lot of hard work. Earlier this year, just after the new year, I went to America for a few days to have a look at the new STEM education system. STEM standing for science, technology, engineering and maths. One of the schools that we visited was a public school called Thorndon in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. 900 children, primary school. 8 years ago, before the introduction of the STEM system, they had 32 gangs, half of them affiliated to the cartels. They had metal detectors on every door to get into the school. They had 5 policemen on site permanently every day that the school was open. Within 2 years of introducing the STEM system, they had no gangs left in the school. They had no metal detectors in the school, and 1 policeman for 3 schools in the district. But the most encouraging part, they almost had 100% buy-in and support from the parents. I have to say that trip to America to look at these different types of schools was a mind blow for me. I deal a lot with Māori youth, Pacifica youth. 9 times out of 10, when you talk to them, you get yes, no. In 9 schools, and most of them were lower socioeconomic that we visited, not once did a child walk past without a hello or a smile. Not once. At the Thorndon Primary School, we were welcomed by literally 5 5-year-olds who had to write their own speech, but we weren't allowed to use notes when they presented it. So they lined up in a line. First little girl down this end starts, and she literally does 2.5 sentences, cuts off halfway through the 3rd sentence. The child on the end finishes it, does 2 sentences, back to the second child, back to the second child, and they went backwards and forwards like this for 10 minutes, and there wasn't a pause. 5-year-olds. I have a 7-year-old walks up to me, hand out, hello, my name is Juanita. I am to be your guide while you're in our school. What is your name? My name is Mark. Mark Solomon. Mark. Oh, yes. Do you know that your name means strength or strong? Well, actually I do, but I didn't learn that until I was in my 30s. How do you know? Oh, we did a project on names, and I just remembered that your name means strength or strong. It was absolutely mind-blowing. High-tech high in Denver. Over the last 8 years, 90% of all students have graduated high school. But of all of those students in the last 8 years that graduated, 100% went to university. Most on full-paid scholarships. Now this is a lower socio-economic school. It was amazing. So, to answer the question, there's a huge amount of work that has to be done, and it's all on top of your normal job. There's lots of analysis has to be done. There's lots of partnerships have to be created. But we are absolutely dedicated to the future, that the future for our children is education, education, education. So we will be putting the resources into it. It's hugely expensive, as you can imagine, but we wish to lift our children, so we will be spending on it. But it is difficult.
Thank you, Mark. We've got a number of other questions, but probably time for just one more. How much collaboration and learning from each other exist among and between tribes and iwi in New Zealand?
Ooh, that's a good question. Right. Let me give you a little bit of history. In 2003, you had a number of tribes at the top end of the South Island that took a question to the Māori Land Court. And the question simply was, does the Māori Land Court under the New Zealand legal jurisdiction have the right to hear a case on the ownership of the foreshore seabed? Judge Hingston of the Māori Land Court ruled, yes, it does. Under the New Zealand legal system, the Māori Land Court has the absolute right to hear the case. That was challenged by the Labour government and taken to the High Court, where a High Court judge ruled, no, Judge Hingston's wrong. It then ended up into the Court of Appeal, where the Court of Appeal ruled, no, Judge Hingston was absolutely correct. But they did say in their obiter statement, though, that they did not believe if the issue went to the courts that it would lead to a fee simple title to the foreshore seabed for Māori, but there are rights and interests that Māori have to the foreshore seabed that must be addressed. The response to that court case from the New Zealand Labour government was, well, we're telling you we own it. We will not allow you to take any case to the court until we first change the way the court works, and by the way, the court can't rule against us. So in 2004, they forced through the first of the foreshore seabed legislation. In 2005, we had a national election where the campaign slogan for the National Party was Kiwi, not iwi. Let's get rid of the Māori seat. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of all this privilege for Māori. Labour just won that election. But like the foreshore seabed, it is a reality that the Crown could extinguish the treaty at a stroke of the pen. So I simply asked myself the question, if this was to happen and the treaty was to be wiped out, what have the tribes got left? My answer is very, very simple, ourselves. So cheeky as, I made an appointment with the Māori Queen. I went to see her at Te Hopu Hopu. And basically I put to Dame Tiata, it seems to me that every tribe in the country is trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to build a capital base. We're all trying to look after the social and cultural issues as they affect our people, and we're all trying to protect our respective tribal areas. If we're all doing the same thing, why are we all doing it in isolation of each other? And Dame Tiata, my dream, my moia, is that I'd like to do a geographic sweep across the country and invite, say, 30 iwi chairmen to my marae to start a discussion on a collaborative approach. Will you support me? Her answer was yes. I put out 30 invitations, and in a typical Māori fashion, 35 tribes turned up. Put the same whakaaro that I put to Dame Tiata, and the upshot was that we reached an agreement that we would form the organisation, the Iwi Chairs Forum. Now, to be specific, Iwi Chairs Forum is a non-decision making body. The whole purpose of the Iwi Chairs is for the Iwi Chairman or Chairwoman 4 times a year to come together to discuss the macro issues that affect all of us. At our last meeting, 55 of the 57 tribes that received a fisheries allocation are now formal, paid-up members of the Iwi Chairs Forum. There is another series of groupings that have come out of the Iwi Chairs Forum called the Iwi Leaders Groups. Iwi Leaders Groups, again, are not decision-making bodies. They are information-gathering organisations. Any tribe may be a member of it, but to be a member of an Iwi Leaders Group, you pay your own costs and you put up a working technician, whichever field you're dealing in. So we've had iwi leaders groups on the foreshore seabed, emissions trading scheme, whānau water, housing, conservation, foreign charter vessels, all issue specific. Those groups every 3 months must report back to the Iwi Chairs Forum. Every 3 months you either have your mandate refreshed for another 3 months or you have your mandate taken off you. All of the information from the iwi leaders groups, the iwi chairs forum, goes onto a web page that does have a secure section because the stuff we want to discuss that we don't want the general public to be involved in, but they are only secure against outsiders. Every iwi chairman in the country has full access to the web page, gets all the papers, everything is downloaded for their people to discuss. So we are very much involved in a full collaborative approach. A number of us are now looking at proposals. Well, okay, so we're looking at working together on different issues. What about working together economically? So there are 15 of us ready, or at the moment, that when any business venture comes up, if you need partners, call them in. This is it. Do your due diligence. If you want in, come on board. So it's improving all the time. But what you have to keep in mind is that a large proportion of iwi have not had settlements yet. And they are still, in a sense, 20 years behind us because they've got no infrastructure, no capacity to be able to do what we do. Our responsibility is to carry them until they're ready to participate fully. But it is improving, strengthening all the time. The only problem that is appearing on the horizon, there are those that speak publicly for the iwi leaders groups or iwi chairs that are going out as if everything is a decision. It is not a decision. We are information gatherers only to take the information home so we can make informed decisions. But it is a growing organisation. And whether it's true or not, we're now touted by Pākehā political commentators as one of the most powerful lobby groups in the country. Personally, I find it a bit debatable, but if they want to keep saying it, good on them.